Hey guys, so I just finished reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I really think it's an amazing book that truly changes your perspective on money and how to make money. And some of the things that I learned about that book, I want to talk about in this video, and how you could even apply that into your daily life. So what I learned from that book is that when it comes to making money, a lot of us work for money, but we don't let money work for us. And what we need to do more is that we need to invest in more in assets rather than invest in liabilities. And once we understand the difference between the two, then making money is a lot easier, or it becomes a lot better. An asset is something that is like tangible that you own, or intangible that is making money for you, or that the value of that product that you intangible product that you have, it increases in value over time. An example of something that's not an asset is a car. When you purchase a car, the moment you put it on the road, it loses about 20 to 25% of its value. A car will always depreciate. An example of an asset is like a home or a stock or a bond, where the value of that asset can fluctuate over time. It can go up or it can go down. But the thing is, with assets, the more you have, the greater chance you're able to diversify ways of making more money for yourself. And if we're able to reduce our liabilities and increase the amount of assets that we have, then there's a higher chance of us making more money or producing more income. And with liabilities, I've also realized from the book that there's two forms of liability. There's good liabilities and there's bad liabilities, right? Bad liabilities that you'll go into debt more and you have to pay off the car payments. For example, if you're financing a vehicle, which is usually not really a very smart option. If you're financing a vehicle, you're paying, but you're also paying with interest, but the value of the car depreciates over time, right? And when you purchase a house, when you know you can't afford a house, but you purchase it due to impulse, right? You put in a down payment and you're paying off the mortgage payments, right? But you don't have any tenants that live in your house or condo that you purchased that are helping you to pay off your mortgage. If you don't have that, then you're accumulating a lot of debt. And there's a lot of other expenses that go into purchasing a home. So those are like, forms of bad liabilities. And so if you ever decide to purchase a house or a condo or something, just make sure that you're able to actually afford it, and that is actually producing income for you. And having good debt, right? In a way, good debt is where, so you have the mortgage, right? But you have somebody that you're renting out the place to, that you own, that they're helping you pay off the mortgage every month. But the value of your property appreciates, right? So the value of your property goes up. Okay. Obviously, that's not always the case. Sometimes the value of your house could go down depending on where you live, what country you live in, your location. A lot of those factors are part of that. But you always have to be ready to, be ready for the risk, because with everything comes risk, but with high risk, high reward. So anyways, let's go back to the book. So another thing I learned as well is that the root of all evil, people say that the root of all evil is money, but in the book I learned that the lack of money is the root of all evil. There is a difference between the two, right? When you have a lack of money, right, and you refuse to learn about ways to make more money, you become arrogant, right, and you become ignorant, right, because you just fear. A lot of that is because of fear. You fear about the unknown. You open up your heart and mind to growth, to learning. And I feel like making money is like knowledge. It's like a learning process. But we've also been taught, a lot of us have been taught to get a 9 to 5 job, have a stable job, right? Make a stable income, have all the benefits that come with the job, all that stuff. But a lot of us, we don't understand, or we don't know how to spend. We don't know how to make money off the money that we have. A lot of us are paying our bills off. A lot of us are just, all of our money, a majority of our money is going towards paying the house that we bought. A lot of us, we're just expecting a promotion, and the moment we get a promotion at our job, we purchase that car that we always wanted. But then your liabilities go up. As I said in the previous video, your expenses go up, right? So we need to understand, we need to create discipline in ourselves in how we spend money, right? Because that is a whole discipline on its own. How we spend money. How we spend money. That's instead of, we need to focus more on how to save money, how to make money, how to make our money that we earn, right, from our hard work at our jobs or whatever, to work for us. How it can multiply. Those are very important things that we need to understand and develop over time. And I've also realized that, like, with making money, it's like a forever learning process. Like, the learning never stops. There's always new ways to learn how to make money. And the thing is, I used to believe, right, that money, money is like just for greedy people. Like, rich people are greedy. Like, that's the type of mentality that I had, right? And poor people were not greedy, right? But I started to change my mentality, that I think a lot of people who are rich, they're the reason why they're rich is because a lot of the times they also give back to the community. A lot of the money goes towards charities, goes to churches, goes to other charitable foundations. A lot of the money, the reason why a lot of them are rich is because they gave back to the society, they gave back to community, and they gave something to someone, right? Maybe a person who owns a business created jobs for other people. That's why they're so rich, right? But they gave those people an opportunity to survive, to grow, to get better. Whereas people who are poor, who, a lot of them just refuse to find different ways to get better, to make more money, because they believe that, this is who I am as a person. Everyone else, the whole world's against me. Like, my life is just ruined. My life is just bullshit, right? You're putting yourself into this victim mentality, but also into a very selfish and greedy mentality, right? And I also realized that the more you give back, the more that comes back to you, the more that gets reciprocated back to you. So it's always important to give back, right? And these are a lot of the things I learned from the book, but also a lot of these things that I already know deep down, that kind of just like fortified what I believe in. And this book is really interesting, and I highly recommend, everyone to read this book at least once in their lives, because it really does change your perspective on money, on the importance of not relying on just your job to have freedom, to have financial freedom. Because a lot of the times, by the time we hit our 60 or 70, around retirement age, we don't have a lot of time left to enjoy our lives. And a lot of us regret the fact that we put in so much time into our jobs, but we made other people richer. We didn't make ourselves richer, we made other people richer. And a lot of the times it just has to do with our lack of knowledge, or lack of knowledge of how we're taught, how to make money. Because in our educational systems, we're not taught how to invest, how to start our own business. We're not taught that in our educational institutions. We're taught how to prepare us for the corporate world, how to make money at a job, right? And then we start accumulating debt. We start accumulating all these expenses, but we don't realize that there is a way out. There is a way to make money while you sleep, to make passive income. And there's all this information out there. It's just a matter of us being disciplined and focused enough to access those resources, and to also unlearn the things that we were taught by our parents, by by news outlets, by other people in our lives, and that are telling us to live a very stable and comfortable lifestyle, of getting a 9-to-5 job because of fear of not making money, fear of living out in the streets, But my mentality has slowly started to change, because I realized that I don't want to work for someone for 30-40 years for the rest of my life, because I know that there's better ways to make money, and there's faster ways to retire early, and to have more freedom for myself, and have more freedom for if I ever have a family, or I'm able to travel more around the world and not have to worry so much about, will I have enough money for this, will I have enough money for that. And these are all really important lessons and things that we need to learn, and I strongly recommend that we find somebody that we know, or search for somebody that is making a lot of money, but don't look at it as like in arrogance or ignorance. Look at it as people, as teachers. Look at them as teachers. Look at them as ways to, how can I get on that same level as them, or how can I do better? And we need to surround ourselves with those types of people who have an open mind, people who are constantly in the state of growth, who are constantly trying to learn, and who are constantly taking risks. Because a lot of the times, even when we try to make money, right, there are times where we fail. Sometimes when we try to start a business, we fail at it, right? Or sometimes when we invest in a stock or something like that, it doesn't end up making money. But there's lessons to be learned from that. There's growth from that. What matters is we don't give up, and what matters is that we try to stay open-minded, and we're constantly looking for opportunities of growth. That's the most important thing when it comes to trying to be financially free, financially successful, and financially well. Because a lot of us are financially illiterate as well. I also learned that from the book as well, that we live a majority of our lives doing what we've been told by others, and we conform to what everyone else is doing, right? Having the traditional job, purchasing a house, and 90% of what we make is going towards paying off the expenses, right? A lot of us buy things on impulse. We buy that exotic car, we buy the latest brand name clothing, we buy a lot of unnecessary stuff that we really can't afford, but we buy it on credit. A lot of people just try to look rich, but they're not really rich in real life. A lot of the stuff that they have, they're in incredible debt. A lot of them are in incredible debt, but they just want to look rich. They just want to look rich because they're afraid of looking poor in front of other people, right? They want validation, and they want to. I understand that, people want to be a part of a community. People want to be seen, want to be heard. But the thing is, a lot of these people they're not financially literate. A lot of people are going to be in serious trouble when they get older, because they're not going to be able to pay off the banks. They're not going to be able to pay off the government, and then the government seizes all the remaining assets that they own. And this happens a lot. We get owned by the government. We get owned by the banks because we're not educated enough on how to make money financially. We're not educated enough. But as I said before, the resources are out there. It's just a matter of us trying to access them and putting in the work and putting in the focus. Because in today's generation, it actually is a lot easier to make money than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's a lot easier, but we're just surrounded by so many distractions, right? And we're so focused on trying to live a very traditional life where we're just trying to get a stable job out of fear. We're trying to do all these things that we know we're not ready for financially, but we just take the steps anyways. So I highly encourage you, don't think on impulse, and to please read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a really, 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 really good book. And I learned a lot from it. And yeah, see you next time.